Hey there, it's Christian Yordanov. Thanks for tuning back in. Last Sunday, we did a free mini masterclass for our email subscribers, followed by some Q&A, and it was a good session. A lot of good questions, and one of the a couple of folks asked what kind of fats I like, animal fats, and in general sources of fat that I prefer. So I mentioned beef tallow as one of them. If you can find it, if you can find a good clean source, from healthy animals that live in clean environments, and the companies doing this business are following good practices to produce clean food, right? So anyway, that was a good session. Thanks for everybody that came. It was fun. But soon after the session, one of the folks that was on there emailed me, and he told me that he got an article from the CSPI, which I'd never heard of, and it's this thing on the screen here. This is the article titled "Is Beef Tallow Really Healthier Than Seed Oils?" And he said that there's a study in there with a meta-analysis of 30 studies that show that seed oils don't cause inflammation. Now, I had said that they're inflammatory and there's a lot of problems with them during our session. So he was like, "How do you how do you reconcile the study?" So I just I just opened this article first, obviously, and I was like, I just kind of scanned over it, and then near the end, you see here the take-home message. The take-home message is beef tallow is having a moment, as in it's a fad or whatever, but it's no health food. Ignore the hype and stick with healthier plant-based oils like olive, canola, soybean, or avocado. So I was like, for a second or two, I was there, like, I was horrified. I was horrified. And then I asked this subscriber that emailed me, like, why are you even subscribed to this thing? I just looked at a few other articles. I was like, do you think this publication is they're trying to get you healthier, you know? So anyway, the reason, and I'm not having a go with that person, the reason I'm actually creating this video is because this is actually a very important thing, because what a lot of, still unfortunately, a lot of people out there don't understand is that there's a lot of, if you look at, if you scroll down here, support CSPI, so this, what is it, Center for Science in the Public Interest. Okay, so look, it's a non-profit organization that takes no donations from industry or government. CSPI relies on support of donors to continue our work, right? So these ostensibly non-profit organizations, if you actually, and there's many researchers out there that have dug into a lot of these, like bigger, also much bigger ones, you will see that they have a lot of roots into companies that sell various chemicals for a profit that don't actually solve people's problems. They actually make things worse, if you know what I mean, right? So they're kind of they're parading around as this not, grassroots non-profit organization. And if you go to their about section, I'll go here for anyone watching the video. If you look at let me just move my face out of the way. So if you look at the people in the organization, come on, why is this not working? Come on, people. Okay, if you look at these people here, like they look like just really normal folks. These are the staff, just like people just following orders, But then I actually did not see that there's a board section. So they have an epidemiologist, MD. Um, so I honestly, like, I didn't actually see this the first time around. They have a guy that was a mayor of Philadelphia twice, another MD, public health physician, health policy expert, senior policy officer, Robert Wood, whatever. So actually, now that now that I saw these people, I would love to just kind of like look into them a little bit and see kind of what's their background. But if you look at the staff, that's which is what the first thing that appears here. They're just like regular folks, just doing their job, trying to make a living, and just trying to make the world a better place. Ostensibly, that's what the whole website is all about. And I can see why a lot of people who have a lot more trust in some of these organizations than many of us do. I can see why they look. You can click up there, get email updates. So, but if you look at, I'll go back to this article here. The study. So look, is beef tallow better for you than seed oils? No. Like this is what the article says here. Now, if you're not watching the screen, I'm gonna just read for you. So, is beef tallow better for you than seed oils? Is the subheading? No. Seed oils like soybean, canola, sunflower, safflower, and grapeseed have gotten an undeserved bad reputation, with detractors asserting that they cause inflammation and that their processing introduces toxic chemicals while stripping them of nutrients. That's an exaggeration. For starters, seed oils don't cause inflammation. This is an assertion here. For starters, seed oils don't cause inflammation. I should also tell you that the person that wrote this article, won't name names, is a PhD, right? Now, PhD generally stands for very likely extremely indoctrinated and brainwashed for like 8 years, 9 years, right? So they're very good at just parroting information that they were taught in the textbooks, from it's a very authoritarian type thing. So if you don't toe the party line, you don't get your PhD, right? So you have to really, for the most part, especially more in this like more health research, medical, like you are really just, and I don't mean to be demeaning here, but you're a little bit like just a tool in the bigger machine trying to, extract profits by making people sick and not actually helping them. So you're kind of like a useful idiot in this entire, and a lot of people have woken up, a lot of doctors have woken up. So God bless them. I'm really happy about that people are waking up. The problem is that these so-called donor sponsored grassroots movement, they seem to be like pretty well funded if they have such a huge influence, if you know what I mean. So it seems like behind the curtains there may be funds coming from somewhere else, because check this out, like just I'm sorry to just really harp on this, but if you look at the amount of people that they have on staff, it's like 4 columns. It's like, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 18 rows of 4. That's almost 80 people. How do you have, like, if you're just taking donations, how are you going to have so much money to have 80 people on staff? That's just on the website. And then you have to pay your board in your offices, like, just that's like huge. This is a corporation freaking level. And they have like these roles as well. If this was, look, they have a director of diversity, equity, and inclusion, policy associate, just for federal child nutrition programs. I mean, senior policy associate, director of litigation. Like, they have so much cash that they have these like roles that are not mega essential to the running of an organization, so they have a lot of money to throw around. So I would not like, I know these folks like look like normal people, and I'm sure that they're just, again, trying to make a living, trying to make the world a better place. They think they're doing that in a center like this, but they're clearly well funded. So let's go back here. Is beef tallow better for you than seed oils? No, seed oils got a bad rap, but they don't cause inflammation. And look, this is the study that was brought to my attention. I had not seen this one. So look at this. In an analysis of 30 randomized trials, researchers found that eating more linoleic acid, one of the primary fatty acids in seed oils like soybean, corn, and grapeseed, was not linked to higher levels of inflammation. Okay? right? And look at this. While the refining process does remove many nutrients, along with compounds that cause splattering, rancidity, and off colors and odors, all oils contain the antioxidant vitamin E. If they didn't, they'd go rancid in the bottle after just a few days, right? So, if the seed oils didn't contain vitamin E, they'd go rancid in the bottle after just a few days. Like that's already like okay. That sounds like you're making yourself very vulnerable to this rancidity if your vitamin E levels drop for whatever reason. Let's say you have more oxidative stress than normal, and it's used up and depleted. So let's just, before we look at that paper, we're gonna kind of look at it briefly. But look at, there's another article from the same author. It's called "Seed Oils: Are They Healthy or Harmful?" And if you just, I'm gonna like, so what are seed oils? What kind of fats are in oil? So they give you like a breakdown, and then look, this is actually a pretty cool graphic. It's nicely animated as well, where it says like, look, the sort of the blue. I don't know what this color is. I guess it's blue, gray, whatever. This shows you the amount of polyunsaturated fat. So red, and I love how they make red, danger color. Saturated fat is red. Monounsaturated fat is yellow. And then polyunsaturated fat is whatever, blue color. So if you look at coconut oil, palm kernel oil, butter, cocoa butter, beef tallow, these are like the lowest in polyunsaturated fats. And most people listening to me right now know that you don't want to eat too many polyunsaturated fats. Now, this is what I like hate, and it's horrifying about these organizations, is because they are literally telling you the opposite, and that is nefarious, and that is clearly ill-intentioned, but they're using their staff, which are just normal folks that think they're doing good. They might have been a little bit indoctrinated by their schooling. They're using them as a front for that. So then look, what are the highest polyunsaturated fat oils? Look at this. Flaxseed oil is 73%. Grapeseed oil 73% highest. Canola almost 30, 29. Walnut oil 66. Sunflower oil, apparently it's only 4, but this has to be wrong. This must be look, there's a asterisk. Sunflower seeds are higher in PUFAs and lower in monounsaturated fats than most sunflower oils. Some health food stores sell high poly sunflower or sunflower. So I know there's this high oleic sunflower oil now, where it's more monounsaturated fat. So maybe that's kind of what they're using here. But definitely sunflower oil has more than 4%. This is a little bit, not correct. Soybean oil 60%, corn oil 57%, sesame oil 43%. Okay, so let's see. This is just a little bit of background for anyone that doesn't know. In the article. Great. Now, the next section is seed oils and health. Are seed oils bad for you? Subheading. In a word, no. This is it. This is blatant, ill-intentioned misinformation. By this ostensibly out there for your organization. They're saying in a word, no, seed oils are not bad for you. Okay? And then they start talking about studies where they ask people what they eat and follow them for decades. Those who report eating more unsaturated plant-based fats have better health outcomes than those who say they eat more saturated animal-based fats like butter. So this is just probably one of the lowest levels of evidence epidemiology, where you ask people to self-report and recall what they've eaten, right? Trash research. For example, okay, I'm not going to go into all of this. Then, is it better to replace saturated fats with polyunsaturated fats or with monounsaturated fats? And then they say, while both mono and poly are good, some person called Lichtenstein points out there seems to be more of a benefit of polys than monos for lowering the risk of heart disease. Um, her bottom line is, I think we're splitting hairs. It's like arguing whether blueberries are better than blackberries when you just want people to eat more fruit. So they want you to eat more of these. And you know who else wants you to eat more of these? The World Harm Organization, WHO. You may have heard of them. You may have seen their work in recent years pushing for various other healthy, quote unquote, interventions. Also, who else wants you to eat more omega 6 polyunsaturated fats? Harvard Health Press, I should say. People might not get these jokes. Harvard Health Press. Them and the WHO, they say you need to should eat 5 to 10% of your diet from omega 6s. Okay. Now, maybe you think those organizations are there for your own good. That's, if you do, maybe you should just like click off this episode and go, put on some Disney fairy tales. I don't know what you're into, Snow White, the Beauty and the Beast, like that, because we're in fairy tale land. If anyway, that's not my kind of job to convince folks that they don't see through all of these organizations, especially based on past events, especially based on all the cholesterol lies, and then these omega 6s being pushed in instead of the animal fats as more healthful for us. But if you anyone that tells you like there's a lot of research that shows that people that eat more unsaturated plant-based fats have better health outcomes than those who say they eat more saturated animal-based fats, just look at disease rates over the last 100 years, and you will actually see that cancer all-time highs, heart disease all-time highs, Alzheimer's disease rapidly increasing, diabetes, obesity, all of these are rapidly increasing. So in the 1800s and even like the first part of last century, whilst there was a lot of increase in the consumption of these oils, it wasn't as vast as today because they used to use tallow in McDonald's, beef tallow. So there was a lot of homes, a lot of like smaller like families that might have a cow or whatever. They would have more of their own like fats that they would make, animal fats, butter, lard, from pigs that didn't just eat corn and soybeans. So if you want a large scale experiment, look at what at least in the USA, what the population is dealing with right now, and like 2 in 3 people have some health problem. Like a third of Americans are overweight, obese, and or diabetic or pre-diabetic. 500,000 plus die every year of heart disease and cancer. So this is whilst our Americans' consumption of all these oils, soybean, especially corn oil, safflower, it has been increasing over the last 100 and I guess 25 years or so. So if they're so healthy, why are people sicker than ever? Why? And if you look at, there was another paper. This was some of this research is going to be in my book if you want to go deeper into it. But there was for example, one paper here in the Prostaglandins Leukotrienes Essential Fatty Acids Journal. A high linoleic. Wait. Sorry, wrong. Sorry about that. Wrong paper here. So this paper says increase in adipose tissue linoleic acid of U.S. adults in the last half century. So what they state in this paper from 2015 is that in the last half century, the major omega-6 polyunsaturated fatty acid, linoleic acid, has increased in the fatty tissue of Americans by 136%. And that this increase is highly correlated with an increase in dietary linoleic acid intake over the same period. Okay? So if these are so good for you and they're so healthy and they're actually better than saturated fats, and folks have been consuming them more, and their levels in their body have increased by 136% over the last 50 years, why, oh why, Mr. PhD scientists and the smartest people in the world with the most funding and the pinnacle of health and medicine and science, why have no diseases been cured? Why are there new diseases basically being classified all the time? We have thousands, if not tens of thousands now. And why are Americans and people around the world the sickest they've ever been? And why are a lot of these diseases actually afflicting younger and younger people? Like you have younger people with Alzheimer's, younger people with cancer. Um, and then we have I have some of my clients that they tell me like they're in some cases their parents are still alive. We're talking about 60, 70-year-old people, and their parents are like they're in their late 80s, early 90s. I have clients that I have one client, I think both of his granddads worked in friggin' coal mines, and they lived to like 93, 4, 5. Both of the granddads freaking worked in coal mines, and they lived into their mid 90s, and they just ate whatever they, God knows, like whatever they could grow and raise and process themselves. They weren't eating like all these oils, which are supposedly better than animal fats, right? How is that possible? Am I taking crazy pills here? Jeez Louise. Anyways, seed oils. So, do I need to improve my ratio of omega 6 to omega 3? This is such a red herring. And I have clients come to me. They're like, "Oh, what about the omega 6 and 3 and my omega 6 to 3 is this and that." Like, I think this is such a red herring. I don't think it matters. I think you just have to remove as much of this garbage from your life. That is really it. Um, so let's look at the. I want to look at this paper, but just before, sorry, one quick glance at some of the other articles on this website, CSPI. So look, CSPI joins Public Citizen in call for RFK Jr.'s termination. Okay, and they have him here painted in red as he's a spawn of Satan, a minion of Satan, right? So they're trying to get this guy out. And on the side here, look, free jab updates. The straight shot federal vaccine updates in your inbox, and you can sign up for this. Oh, you can't make this stuff up, man. And okay, so they're trying to get and RFK. He's the one in this other article. He's the one that has this make frying oil tallow again. Said Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And just like that, Steak and Shake switched from frying in seed oils to frying in beef tallow. Influencers sing beef tallow's praises, but why? The answer may have to do more with bucking convention, because it's certainly not due to any known health benefits. These people don't want to help you be healthier. They want the exact opposite. And again, I'm not saying it's the people writing the articles. I'm not even saying it's the board members necessarily. They are just following the orders. Following the orders. Okay? If you know what I mean. Look at this picture here. Nutrition Action. Our best shot, and a picture of Dr. Fauci. Okay. And look next to it, the plant lover's plate. Oh, I'm sure the plant-based diet on the magazine cover next to Fauci with our best shot as the headline. I'm sure then the plant lover's plate. I think plant-based diet must be good for you, right, guys? Guys, hot cereals. Look at this, hot cereals, the tastiest, healthiest oatmeals and more. I am sure that oatmeal must be very good for me. And look at this, low sugar drinks. 10 of the healthiest options. I'm sure sugar must be bad for me. And look at this, radish, green beans. Browse recipes from the healthy cook. I need to eat more vegetables. Look at this, another one. A veggie nice cookbook, plant-based main dishes from the healthy cook. $16 to buy this book. Wow. And look at this magazine cover. Safe and easy ways to lower your blood pressure. And there's a beet. Is that a beet or a red onion? Looks like a beet. I have to eat beets and raise my nitric oxide to lower my blood pressure. That's healthy. And then there's a child putting some processed, probably grains and some cereals in his little shopping cart at the store. Therefore, I must buy my kid Cheez-Its or whatever the flip, because that's healthy and nutritious. Or if not, I'll just get some healthy, tasty oatmeal for my kid. Look, Quaker Oats. Oh, they must be so good for you. Should I get steel cut, quick steel cut, rolled or old fashioned, or quick or instant? Or maybe I'll go gluten free, but I'm sure gluten free is just another scam. You know, people just like all of these hypochondriac maniacs, they just want attention, right? Okay, so no, never mind that. I'm getting the gluten free, not non gluten free. And then I'm gonna get chia seeds, must be good. Hemp seeds, great. What else do I add to my oats? Oh, these are, oh thank God, these are with less sugar. Whew, that's dodged the bullet there. And what else? What else? Okay, some whole grains with fruits and nuts and granola, protein oats. I think that's breakfast sorted for the next year, guys. No worries. No worries. Got my Quaker Oats, my steel cut, my instant if I'm in a pinch, and just make sure the chia seeds and the hemp seeds are ready. Blast those in. Lots of omega 3, 6, and 9. Plenty of fiber. Happy days. Thank you, Center for the Science in the Public Interest. I'm sorry. I should be getting to the actual study here. The paper. Let's just look at these unsweetened flavored sparkling water. Okay, sparkling water with a splash of real juice. I actually like this Pellegrino. I get it organic. They have actually really nice San Pellegrino in glass bottles. Okay, I changed my mind. These guys are okay. These are okay. They had a picture of something I've bought before, therefore they're okay now in my book. Never mind everything I said. Please disregard the last 28 minutes. All right, let's look at the recipes very quickly. Red cabbage wedges with honey mustard sauce. Sesame green beans. Broccoli with Caesar sauce, which I'm sure will be with mayonnaise made from soybean oil. Simple butternut soup. Okay, wow, there was actually chicken. There's picnic chicken here. Wow, there's actually, oh, but it's with cornstarch because, that's, why not? Roasted red pepper gazpacho. I'm just surprised there's some meat at all because, plant-based is the way to go, don't you know? Tofu and snow peas. Oh, black bean sauce. I'm telling the wife, get some tofu. Basically, I'm going to tell my wife to buy all of these ingredients because I don't have one single of these damn things. Oh, except the garlic. Okay, I have the garlic. I don't have the peanut oil. Definitely going to have to get like a decent batch of that. Bunch of cornstarch, bunch of high protein or extra firm tofu, the black bean garlic sauce, and the tablespoon of dry sherry because like I would have to be very drunk to actually enjoy tofu in a meal with peanut freaking oil in it with all the polyunsaturated fats. But that's fine. That's because that's why the sherry's in there, right? Details on this Veggie Nice cookbook. Eat a more plant-based diet. That's the message from many health experts. For $16, we will help you do something that you can just go on Google or YouTube for free and do it. But this way, at least you're going to sponsor our blatant propaganda, misinformation, veiled as public interest. Okay, I think that is enough ranting. I was not gonna rant. Seed oil processing. All right. Let's go. So let's look at. Oh, by the way, the stuff they said about supplements is horrific. Like honestly, like I know a lot of people, like a lot of my clients, they look at the website like this. They know this is just like some sock puppet sort of front for God knows. It could be industry, it could be pharma. God even knows. But you like what's horrifying to me is that a lot of people still can't really see that. You know, they can't see that by they think they're getting good information. So okay, so RFK, he's the devil. Why getting jabberonied is a game changer? We can do this. Okay. Make sure you get jabberonied, game changer. Um, interview with Dr. Fauci. Okay. Uh, jabberoni myths and misinformation. Okay, so thank you for debunking these myths, guys. Should you get a flu, what you call it? It's best that you get your flu, what you call it, by the end of October. If you haven't gotten it yet, don't panic. Just go get it because the best time to get your what you call it for the flu is by the end of October. The next best time is as soon as you get it. Okay? So make sure you get that. So really, thank you guys for helping us be healthy. Now let's look at this meta-analysis of 30 studies, right? Dietary linoleic acid intake and blood inflammatory markers, a systematic review and meta-analysis of randomized control trials. So what they did is they had 30 randomized control studies involving 1,377 subjects that were included in the meta-analysis. They looked at various inflammatory markers in the blood, including cytokines, acute phase reactants, and adhesion molecules in adults. And then their conclusion was that our meta-analysis suggested that increasing dietary linoleic acid intake does not have a significant effect on the blood concentrations of inflammatory markers. Okay, now when our subscriber brought this to my attention, I just popped open the paper and I just kind of like started scrolling to see if that there's like a table of the paper. So it was here sideways, and when I just looked at it's sideways on the screen, but don't worry, I'll show it a little bit later in a better format. But here you can see duration. So I just started looking here at the paper. So 6 weeks duration, 12 weeks duration, 6 weeks is a month and a half, 12 weeks is 3 months, 8 weeks. Okay, there's 6 months, 6 weeks, 4 months, 3 months, 7 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 60 days. Okay, so you're telling me that this article that they cite that they cite this research as definitive that seed oils do not increase inflammation, yet the longest study here is 6 months, and most of them would be like the 6-12 week range. That's like a month and a half to 3 months. Now remember that paper here, dietary. Wait, I think I closed it. Yeah, the paper earlier where the researchers had seen that the linoleic acid had increased by 136% in Americans' adipose tissue, fatty tissue, in the last 50 years, right? And that's of course the last 50 years, but we've been eating these things for, especially in the States, folks have been eating these for like 125 years. So that increase is larger over the course of a century and a quarter. But so what what these studies here prove is very little, very little, because you have, again, you have at a country level the heart disease, cancer, Alzheimer's disease, diabetes, that are obesity, all of that stuff that are at absolutely skyrocketing, unprecedented levels. And the biggest variable here is the amount of seed oils people consume, and just in general, the amount of polyunsaturated fats. Not necessarily from seed oils, because we also have access to nuts and seeds every day. Some people eat them every single day, like a lot of plant-based people. They think that they're replacing um, animal proteins with nuts and seeds or beans and whatever, and they think they're actually getting bioavailable protein that is appropriate for the metabolism of a warm-blooded mammal, where it's actually not. Right? So a lot of people are getting, if you eat an ounce, or rather, I should say, if you eat like 4 ounces of nuts a day, you could be getting, depending on the nut, easily 20, 30 grams, maybe even more in some cases, of polyunsaturated fats. And that's a hell of a lot for a warm-blooded mammal, where these things, when they're incorporated into your body, are gonna be very susceptible to damage, even if you have plenty of vitamin E in the body, because UV light damages them, oxygen, which we use to make energy, damages them, and then of course heat, which we are warm, very warm mammals. We're not a seed that is supposed to um, survive the cold of the winter and then still have energy to sprout in through the cold spring ground. In that context, these polyunsaturated fats that help organisms survive warm temperatures and function in warm temperatures, that's appropriate there. But we are like, I don't know, like 15 times warmer than the cold spring ground. We're like 5, 6 times warmer than um you know organisms that live in cold temperatures. Stuff like, for example, like a fish living in the depths of the ocean. There's no UV light. There's no um, heat like we produce in our body. So having a lot of polyunsaturated fats like omega 3s, it's appropriate there, but it's not appropriate to like then put them in this hot machine that we are, where they're going to get peroxidized just by virtue of being heated constantly, right? So 6 to 12 weeks proves nothing. When if you look at the disease stats, what rough shape North Americans are, but like the Europeans, the rest of the world, they're not much better, because these are cheap and profitable oils so there's a lot of money being made in the last 100 years plus. So there's a lot of cash that can be used to sway public opinion, and just make sure that they ensure the continued sale and profitability of these. And they're so in they're so integrated in the food industry as well now, that it's a behemoth, that like, I'm not saying all of these researchers here necessarily were told to do this, but it's just, if you have garbage data in this meta-analysis, yeah, you're gonna get the garbage result that you're gonna get. Because again, if you're looking for 6 weeks, like you could like do a lot of harmful things for 6 weeks that could show positive effect in some other way. For example, just as an example, let's say you take someone that can't sleep or something like that, or is stressed, and you start having them drink a bottle of wine every night. And after 6 weeks, you measure, oh, look, they're sleeping better, maybe they're sleeping longer, self-reported less stress, maybe their cortisol level is lower. Just like, nobody is saying that they weren't drinking poison throughout those 6 weeks, and if they continue doing that for the rest of their life, they won't get some kind of ill effect on their health. It's similar with these things. Over 6 weeks, we know, and here's a study that shows it as an example, we know that these oils are immunosuppressive. Look at this paper here, clinical trial from the journal Transplantation, 1977, immunosuppression with polyunsaturated fatty acids in renal transplantation, kidney transplantation. So they basically 44 of the 89 patients took the PUFA preparation and 45 the placebo, which was oleic acid, right? So, like from olive oil. And functional graft survival was significantly better in the polyunsaturated fatty acid group than in those taking the placebo during the first 3 to 4 months post transplant. So we know. So what's interesting, at 6 months, however, although the difference between the groups persisted, it was no longer statistically significant. Complications were equally distributed between the groups. So what they did was they gave kidney transplantees, people that received kidneys, they gave them the PUFAs to suppress the immune system to ensure or to kind of increase the chances that the body would not reject the transplanted organ. So we know that these are immunosuppressive oils. So look at during the first 3-4 months, they did better in terms of like immunosuppression, in terms of not rejecting the organs. But at 6 months, the difference persisted, but it was no longer significantly statistically significant. So if you just do a 6 to 12-week trial, which is 1.5 to 3 months, and you're suppressing the immune system with the intake of these oils, you actually could see reduction in inflammation depending on the markers you look at. But that's not the full picture. And when we look at this paper, let's just look at some of the ways they were measuring inflammation. So some of the studies had cytokines that were being measured: TNF alpha, interleukin 6, MCP1, adiponectin. Then they also had acute phase reactants, C-reactive protein, fibrinogen, plasminogen, activator inhibitor 1, PA1. These are liver-derived proteins that rise during systemic inflammation. Adhesion molecules: S-ICAM, S-VCAM, SE-selectin, SP-selectin. And so the thing to understand here is, yes, these are markers of inflammation, but you can have damage in the body, you can have detrimental effect even while some of these markers are not elevated. Like there's other ways that we can measure not just inflammation but oxidative stress. So again, these studies, by virtue of the fact of them being so short, probably isn't enough time to show the long-term inflammatory processes going on. So let's just look at, for example, the trial lengths. So 12 of the 30 studies were 4 to 6 weeks, okay, which is too short for significant tissue remodeling or chronic inflammatory processes to emerge, right? So cytokines fluctuate day to day. Then you have 10 studies that were 8 to 12 weeks. So basically 22 of the 30 studies were under 12 weeks. It's like 3 months. 3 friggin' months. People are eating this stuff all their life for 40, 50, 60, 70 years. And then there was 6 studies that were 3 to 6 months. And then there was some of the studies were with like healthy people, others were with like the folks with obesity, metabolic syndrome, dyslipidemia, stuff like that. But still, 3 to 6 months is still short for atherosclerotic or systemic inflammatory progression. So atherosclerosis, or damage to the arteries that can lead to then scarification, calcification, things like that, clots. This stuff is going on for decades and decades before some sort of symptom emerges, or before you're let's say you're 60, you go for a coronary artery calcification scan, and then they find out that you have some kind of calcification in one of the coronary arteries. So it's not like this stuff just happens in 3 to 6 months. And oh, if the seed oils don't cause any inflammatory significant inflammatory changes, therefore they're completely healthy. It's like and here's the other problem. A lot of the research into these drugs out there is super short as well. Okay, so but people are taking some of these things like for decades. Like my grandma was on some of these things for friggin' decades, since her 50 early to mid 50s. That's when they started putting them on the statins and all this um garbage, so like, and the safety trials and all this research, it's like it's weeks, months, maybe for some of them it could be like 12 months. But if you look into it's horrific. And then people are taking these things for years and years, like the SSRI trials. I don't even know like if there's trials beyond 3 months, all that much, you know and people are like on them for freaking years without any actual lab work that corroborates that they have low serotonin at all. Just completely. You have depression or whatever. You don't like your job. You don't like your life at the moment. What's going on? You must be depressed. You must need more serotonin. The complete quackery and freaking butchery going on out there. So why short trials obscure inflammation effects? So linoleic acid gets incorporated into our tissues, but this takes time, right? This takes time. So you will not saturate the tissues with taking a little bit of soybean oil for 6 weeks or 12 weeks, right? Um, other ways we can measure inflammation or oxidative stress include things like lipid peroxidation, right? There's markers for that. So F2 isoprostanes, malondialdehyde, 4-HNE, there's T bars. So um, this could be going on even though your other inflammatory markers that they were measuring were not statistically significant. So you could have more lipid peroxidation. There's various proof of breakdown products like 9-HOD, 13-HOD. There's various like 4-HNE, 4-hydroxynonenal. So this could be going on even though your CRP or interleukin 6, even though these are within range or low or whatever, right? So you also have things like oxidized LDL, right? That's another thing. Eicosanoids, right? So here's that's the really the main sort of thing I would say is if you're looking at inflammatory markers, but you're not looking at like prostaglandins, thromboxanes. There's another one called 15-HETE. These are what linoleic acid, which gets turned into arachidonic acid in the body. These are what then get made into these inflammatory molecules, right? So if we're looking at our seed oils inflaming us, we should actually be looking at the byproducts of the linoleic acid that can then become arachidonic acid, and then which can be turned into prostaglandins, leukotrienes, various eicosanoids, right? So none of these studies looked at this, which are like the derivatives downstream of the linoleic acid increase from the oil consumption, right? Then there's oxidative stress and enzymes. So there's a lot of different ways you could be actually that you could even measure that your body could be suffering or in a detrimental state from these oils. But if you just look at specific markers, it's easy to like just only get one or two or few pieces of the puzzle where the whole picture. It's like you're looking at one corner of your house, tunnel vision, and then behind you, your freaking couch is on fire or something like that, or like a cannonball has blasted through your wall. So that's kind of the problem with looking at disparate markers. And keep in mind, they were looking at several, like 8 or so different inflammatory markers across all of the 30 studies. So some of these studies none of them would do all of the markers. They would do like maybe HSCRP, interleukin 6, maybe 2, 3, 4 markers right? So then they're building this picture with the meta-analysis that all of these markers were fine and dandy, but not all of the studies actually looked at all of the markers, right? So you're in these papers, it's expensive to like measure everything. Yeah, obviously, it's very expensive. So you have to like go for what's the most interesting for our study right now. The problem is if you do that, it doesn't actually give you the full picture. It's actually very easy to then skew the opinion of policymakers, doctors, practitioners, researchers that these things are good, these things are bad, these things are not inflammatory. But if, for example, if you do like this is why I love to do the metabolomic urine test that we do with our clients, is because with a simple urine collection, you're getting over 100 markers. We get markers for how well you're detoxifying, deficiencies of vitamins, minerals, toxic metals. We actually see oxidative stress markers like lipid peroxidation. You know, and this is what happens when these PUFAs break down. This is how you can measure is that going on in the body. And I see it with a lot of clients in the yellow, kind of in danger territory, and I've seen it in the red as well. And there's another marker for DNA damage. So there's a lot of other ways we can, like, honestly, I don't think, for example, CRP, HSCRP, like, I don't think that's a very useful marker, because if you do that marker and it's high, it means yes, there's inflammation going on in your body, but it doesn't give us any clues of what's going on. So what do we like? We still need to investigate further with more lab testing or with more functional assessment, more health history. It's not a very helpful marker in and of itself. Or even interleukin 6, for example. I mean, I don't run that marker or anything, but it would be interesting to see it in people. But if it's elevated, what's causing the inflammation? You know, is it infection? Is it PUFAs? Is it God? You know, God knows what's causing it. So at least when we get like 100 plus 120 markers, we can see if there's a lot of toxic metals in the urine, or if there's if glutathione status is low, and nutrient elements are low, then well, we start to piece together a picture. If you have oxidative stress and you're not detoxifying things well, and your minerals are low, well, it's probably like we need to support those systems, upregulate detoxification, and maybe less lipid peroxidation and oxidative stress will occur, because the body is more able to deal with toxins and repair damage with more minerals. And so there's a lot of like more nuanced ways we can look at this. But the fact is that looking at 2-3 markers in a paper for 6 weeks is not definitive. The problem is that these folks, they take this research, which I don't know if those people are well-intentioned or ill-intentioned. They might just be like neutral. This was a Chinese meta-analysis. They didn't declare any conflicts of interest. But the fact is, if you have a bunch of like poor quality papers like that's 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, and then you cobble them together into a meta-analysis, it looks very impressive, because that's 30 studies. And the meta-analysis of that showed like it's all good, guys. But when you kind of look into the nuance, you see they're just using that paper, throwing it at people that are not going to bother to go into it and actually dismantle it a little bit and figure out is there any like validity to this. And honestly, the reason I'm creating this video is because I was like, well, I'm happy to like freaking dig into this, because what if I'm wrong? And then I look at like an absolute schmuck out there, and like somebody just tells me, look at this paper, look at the quality of research here. They did this study for 5 years. They did the study for 7, 10, 12 years. And in none of those cases, people had increased inflammation. You know, if that happened, I want to know first, so I can at least be a little bit less vocal about this stuff. But as soon as I looked into it, I was like, they are just that CSPI, whatever. They're just using that as an impressive looking 30 study meta-analysis to throw at people that just don't have the time, energy, or desire or background knowledge to look in, to see through the bullshit, really. So that's kind of that. And let's see what else I wanted to cover here. So yeah, so your CRP, your interleukin 6, they may be low, they may be stable. If you have a lot of linoleic acid in the body, that will contribute to oxidative stress, because just again by virtue of being warm-blooded mammals that go out into the world and are hit by UV light, and we use oxygen to produce energy. All three of those things, UV light, oxygen, heat, will just degrade and damage these polyunsaturated fats in our body. That's the problem. It's it's a problem. Yes, it's actually a problem that um these oils are heated, right? When they're cooking our stuff with them. So for example, the effect of intermittent and continuous heating of soybean oil at frying temperatures, this paper here, um, and the formation of 4-hydroxy nonenol and other hydroxyaldehydes. So basically, they were heating soybean oil for 1 hour each day for sequential days, or for 5 hours continuously at 185 degrees Celsius. And basically, these H&E and either hydroxyaldehydes, which are very carcinogenic, toxic to our cells, to our body, they just keep accumulating, right? And there was another paper. It's in the book, in my How to Actually Live Longer book, volume 1. I didn't put it here, but they do see also that those are absorbed in the food. The point here is that, yeah, maybe your CRP and interleukin 6 are going to be fine, but if you're consuming these, you know, not McDonald's fries, but I'm not sure, eating in McDonald's, but if you're eating like potato fries, that fried potatoes, not in tallow, which is mostly monounsaturated and saturated fat, you're getting a lot of these peroxidation byproducts that are carcinogenic, mutagenic, damaging to our cells, our DNA, etc. So you're getting that in your food, and that's going into your body, and that actually depletes you of the vitamin E, which, yeah, the seed oils have them that you're eating, if you were eating them, and the nuts, they have them. But if you're consuming a lot of these hydroxyaldehydes, H&E, that's going to deplete you. And then also the oxidative stress caused by being in the sun, by being hot, as a warm-blooded mammal, that also will deplete your vitamin E. So it's not like, oh, but they come with vitamin E that protects it, the PUFA in the body. Well, it's not as simple as that, and that's what they're kind of painting it out to be in that article, right? The other thing is, if you look at some of these byproducts that they don't measure in those studies, in that meta-analysis, for example, look at this: 20-HETE interferes with insulin signaling and contributes to obesity-driven insulin resistance. So this is, again, a metabolite of arachidonic acid, right? This has been implicated in the development of obesity-associated complications such as diabetes and insulin resistance. So you have, it's pretty common, folks with obesity, to have more inflammation, more oxidative stress, things like that. So this particular metabolite can contribute to insulin resistance. So then you're like, is it eating too many carbs? No, it's not eating too many carbs. Obesity, insulin resistance, and diabetes don't have a lot to do with eating a lot of carbs. They're like, folks that are obese and have insulin resistance and diabetes would probably have eaten a lot of carbs along the way, but it's usually in the context of a very high PUFA diet, because that is the standard American diet, and a lot of those folks have been eating the standard American diet. You don't hear about someone eating the not that I think the Mediterranean diet is all that great, but you don't hear about people doing that diet and being like, for the most part, obese and insulin resistant and hyperglycemic, stuff like that. Now, there is actually, if you look at in Malta, we were in Malta a few years ago with my wife, also in Spain. It was pretty surprising. There was quite a lot of obese people there. In Malta, there was a lot of obese people. But what's interesting is the biggest change in the recent couple of decades is just more and more oils being used in cooking, in fast food, in processed food, whereas before in Spain they would use a lot more olive oil, which they still do, but it's the seed oils are a bigger market share now because they're cheaper still. So if you are a restaurant and you can cut your oil costs in half for certain things you're preparing, then it does make sense. There's certain numbers you can run. It does make sense to actually make those trade-offs. So I think, and the other reason probably in Malta there's a lot of obese people is they import most of their food. So if you look into we went to in one of the shops there, and there was no organic food, I don't think, or maybe there was like a few organic things, maybe eggs, but they were super expensive. So just a lot of what people have to do is buy what's in the shop, which is going to be grains, oil-based things, or things with oil, processed with oil, or eating out. A lot of which will be stuff processed with oils. So that's that's the thing. These folks, if they wanted to actually do seed oils have a negative effect on human health, they would look at a bunch of these oxidized linoleic acid metabolites. Um, so you have I think there's like hundreds of them, but there's like 9-HOD, 13-HOD, OXO, ODE. Like I said, those heats, MDA, malondialdehyde, 4-HNE. If you genuinely wanted to research this, and to just for the sake of knowledge, are these good, are these bad, that's the kind of stuff we want to be looking at. Because I'll tell you why. You just saw this 20-HETE interferes with insulin signaling and contributes to obesity-driven insulin resistance. But then look at this other one here, 4-HNE. This one is 4-hydroxynonenal. This is like one of the most sort of popular of these compounds at the moment. But this paper is called, it's a review, Role of 4-hydroxynonenal in the pathogenesis of Alzheimer's disease and other selected age-related neurodegenerative disorders. Now, do you develop Alzheimer's disease or age-related neurodegenerative disorders in 4 to 8 weeks or 6 to 12 weeks? No. So these people are like, really, honestly, like, there is a special place in hell for the people funding that website, doing this to the American public, which I'm sure it's mostly American readers. You're not going to develop Alzheimer's disease in 6 weeks or 12 weeks eating these oils. You know what I'm saying? But this paper is clearly implicated, and I've seen, this is also, I think, in the book, I've seen also 4-hydroxynonenal being implicated in depression as well. So there's a lot of like other things where these oils, the lipid peroxidation and oxidative stress caused by these oils is implicated in things you wouldn't think. I mean, sure, the atherosclerosis, yes, neurodegeneration, yes, but also, like you saw, diabetes. Actually, there's another one here, preeclampsia. This is a pathological aspects of lipid peroxidation. This is another paper. So there's a lot of research implicating lipid peroxidation in aging, and basically a lot of, pretty much most conditions now, there's an aspect of oxidative stress, right? So if you just think about it very plainly, what causes lipid peroxidation? Well, it's when lipids get peroxidized. Which lipids are the most susceptible to peroxidation, which is the damaging of them? That's what peroxidation means. Oxygen kind of damages them. Well, the polyunsaturated fats are the ones that have the most points on them, the most double bonds that are able to be peroxidized. Monounsaturated fats have only one double bond. Saturated fats are the most stable because they don't have double bonds. So when you think about it, and when you understand what causes lipid peroxidation, again, oxygen. Yes, we use oxygen to make energy, so it's pretty prevalent, in our metabolism. But then also heat. We know that oils will go rancid eventually, even in the fridge, right? In a warm environment, they will go rancid even faster. Now, warm environment, ambient temperature in your house is nowhere near as warm as your body temperature, right? Talking, I don't know, In Fahrenheit, it's 20, 30 degrees. I don't even know. Um, but in Celsius, it's a good 15, 17 degrees, So that's a lot. That's huge. That's almost double, huge, huge difference. Um, so lipid peroxidation is super damaging. It ages us. It causes diseases. It's basically a primary driver of aging and dysfunction, as I call it in my How to Actually Live Longer book. So why, in the name of the all that is good and holy, would we ever allow these people to trick us into believing that these are not only healthy, but they're healthier than animal fats, which are mostly saturated and monounsaturated fats. And then, if you again, so this is they looked at in those studies different markers that they skipped a lot of markers that could indicate, um, you know, oxidative stress and inflammation. But there was one paper I had in the book. I remember this. That's why I kind of brought it here. But look at this from 1998 in the journal Prostaglandins, leukotrienes, essential fatty acids. A high linoleic acid diet increases oxidative stress in vivo and affects nitric oxide metabolism in humans. So they measured urinary levels of 8-iso PGF alpha and nitric oxide metabolites, as well as plasma SICAM. So they were eating either linoleic acid or oleic acid. And interestingly, that these are strictly controlled diets, right? So 38 volunteers, 20 women, 18 men, mean age 27, so pretty young people as well, consumed a baseline diet rich in saturated fatty acids for 4 weeks, and then they were switched to either a high linoleic acid diet, 11.5%, or high oleic acid diet, 18% for 4 weeks. During the linoleic acid, that's the PUFA, and the oleic acid diets, nearly all food was provided for the whole day. So this is actually a really, really well done paper where they're not just giving you some pills or some liquid to drink at home. They were actually providing the food for the people. So a control group of 13 subjects consumed their habitual diet throughout the study. Now, they looked basically, no significant changes were seen in the oleic acid group. Oleic acid is the main one in olive oil. Significant differences between the linoleic acid and control group were found for both 8-oxo-PGF2 alpha and nitric oxide, whereas the OA-LA groups did not differ with respect to any parameter. So, in conclusion, the high linoleic acid diet increased oxidative stress and affected endothelial function in a way which may, in the long term, predispose to endothelial dysfunction. And endothelial dysfunction, you can basically read as damage to the blood vessels that can, over years and decades, lead to atherosclerosis and all the unpleasant complications that occur theretofore. Is that even a word? So that was a 4-week study, right? So interesting how in those 30 studies in the meta-analysis they didn't find this, but a 4-week study found it. Isn't that interesting? So then, if we look at nearly done here, by the way, don't worry, we're almost done. So how was I just wanted to check inside that paper what and how much they were given for those trials. So let's see, where was it? Okay, so check this out. So we had, here we go. Some examples of what they were doing. For example, one of the Almond Farinelli 1999 trial in healthy men, they were given the intervention was safflower oil, 22 grams per day. But check this out. Look at this. The control was flaxseed oil. So that was a 6-week study. So how is a control flaxseed oil? So they were given 22 versus 10 grams of flaxseed oil. So how is that a control though? And then the Cornish 2009 study in healthy men. They were given 30 milliliters of corn oil as the intervention, and the control was flaxseed oil. So, what are they? They're comparing, is corn oil more inflammatory than flaxseed oil? Well, I mean, that's not very good science, right? So I just wanted to go back because they had this the seed oils. They had that seed. Wait, I should just see if I can get this open up again. Where's the seed oils? They had a good chart here. Okay, so what did we say? Flaxseed oil. Flaxseed oil. 30 milliliters. That was the control. And look at flaxseed oil here. Where is it? Flax. Look at this. Flaxseed oil is 73% polyunsaturated fat. How is that a control? And the control is like you're supposed to see, does the intervention increase whatever marker, could be, in this case, inflammatory marker. And then the statistical significance is like based on the control. So, but if you're giving another PUFA-rich oil, and look at this. So that was one study. The Cornish study did that. The Freeze study, 2004, Finland, healthy smokers, sunflower oil versus low LA mix, 6 grams. Okay, 6 grams. I think that's, I guess, something, some better. Then the Caracas 2016 US study, PCOS women, soybean oil, 2.57 grams versus 0.97 grams of flaxseed oil. So, I mean, you're giving them like 2.5 grams of soybean oil. What kind of a friggin' trial for 6 weeks expects much of a change from 2.5 grams of oil? You know what I mean? Against, and then the control is also a flaxseed oil, 1 gram of flaxseed oil. It's, if you start looking at the research, it's pretty like, it's pretty horrific. Not all of them were like bad. So terpinen 98, 99, healthy people. Sunflower oil 33 grams versus high oleic sunflower oil. So that'll be more monounsaturated. But really, is that the right control to use? Shouldn't you use like coconut oil, which is mostly saturated? Shouldn't you use, at least butter or olive oil? They were using so many of these. They were using flax or here they're using olive and rapeseed oil. So just really like strange why they would do that, right? So again, you can grab a bunch of studies like this and put them in a meta-analysis, and that looks impressive, but when you kind of even like you saw in 20-30 minutes how many holes we can poke in this analysis. And, you poke enough holes in something, and then it's enough to just discard it and say this is not even worth, like, is it worth going through each one of these studies then and kind of corroborate, like, if these are the parameters of the studies, like, they were not well designed. They're not useful for us just by virtue of them being only 6 weeks, 12 weeks, 4 weeks. That's bad already. Just by virtue of measuring so few markers related to inflammation and oxidative stress, because these go hand in hand. You can't just look at 3 markers or 2 markers in a study and say this is fine, keep doing it. After 6 weeks, these 2 markers we looked at were not statistically significant, so go right ahead and eat this in large quantities for the rest of your life. You'll be fine. You'll be fine, guys. So that's kind of it. I hope that kind of makes sense. I think the big question, or the big sort of takeaway, is that there's a lot of organizations out there that look like they're out to help us, but when you dig deeper into it, and when you just see the quality of the information they give us, you kind of you kind of start to see through the nonsense. Like these guys with the CSPI. There was another look at this. Should you take a multivitamin? There was one. There was one where they were basically crapping on all the supplements, except vitamin C, iron, and like in specific situations, zinc. Just they were basically crapping on all the supplements are a scam, except these few that are doctor approved. And what's interesting is that doctors really, most of them, from what I've seen from my clients, they're gonna give you iron. That's a common one, which is like one of the probably the worst things for most people to take. Then vitamin C, which I don't know even why. I guess because vitamin C antioxidant, and then occasionally maybe they'll do like zinc or something like that. But for the most part, like other than that, apparently all the other things they're worthless. Even though there's actually tons of research on these specific things for various sort of mechanisms, purposes, conditions, etc. Right? So at the end, what do they want? They want you to eat seed oils. They want you to eat a plant-based diet. Look at this healthy eating. Make sure you get your hot oatmeal in the morning. Doesn't that look delicious? That looks tasty as heck. Sign me up. They want RFK out. He is Satan in I was gonna say incarcerated, incarnated on Earth. Um, and they want you to make sure that you're GBD jabbed really like on schedule. Okay, don't 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 even like think about skipping, and make sure that as soon as you're ready, when your cholesterol is high enough, you get on that whole conveyor belt of poisons, and keep paying your health insurance, and make sure you go for your all your checkups, all your scans, all your radiation. And if something happens, it's probably genetic. There's nothing we can do about it, so we can just manage your symptoms with symptom masking chemicals that make companies billions upon billions each year, and many get recalled off the market. Thousands have been recalled off the market, if not at least hundreds, for maiming people, injuring and killing people. But what are you gonna do? You want to make an omelet, you gotta break some eggs, right? So I hope you found this. I hope you found this valuable. And yeah, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next one. I apologize once again. Like I said before, brevity is not my strong point, but I hope I wasn't ranting as much as last time on this one. So thanks for tuning in. If you're still here, God bless you, and I'll see you soon. Thank you.